Good day everyone, I am Michael, the moderator for this webinar. I welcome everyone for today's webinar, which is FDA's Import Requirements and 2024 Import Warning Letters. It's my pleasure to introduce our presenter for today, Jasper E. Ulrichs. Jasper Cap Ulrichs, through his firm Encore Insight LLC, brings over 32 years of experience from the FDA. He conducted domestic and foreign inspections. He specialized in FDA's food and medical device programs. I would now like to hand over the floor to the speaker. Over to you, Jasper.
Thank you for the introduction, and I'd like to welcome everyone to this webinar regarding FDA's import and export requirements. These are the topics that we're going to be covering during this webinar. First, we'll cover FDA required information, and that's called the PREDICT program. Second, we'll cover U.S. Customs or Customs and Border Protection required information, and that's their ACE program. Next, we'll cover the Harmonized Tariff Schedule, and the Harmonized Tariff Schedule information is what links FDA's and Customs database. And so they have become interactive at that point. So when you're doing something with one, you're doing something with the other at the same time. And that's true for any partner government agency. That's how it works. So we're concerned about FDA. Then we'll talk briefly about FDA's relatively new program called the Foreign Supplier Verification Program. And that's for the importation of foods that aren't otherwise subject to other regulations. For example, low acid canned food is an example, or HACCP for fish. Also doesn't cover things like fruit juices, alcohol, and things that are brought in for personal use. And then finally, we'll talk about exporting devices. So we'll get products into the country and we'll get products out of the country. And I'll just cover those briefly just so you're aware of how to get something out of the country as well. So the first segment that we're going to cover is FDA's PREDICT program. As I said, that's their required import information. So FDA assigns a unique identification number to your listing document. It's important to understand that that listing document and especially the identification number is considered by FDA to be confidential commercial information. The product code, the computer code information, is basically something that corresponds to the product that's identified in product listing. So, and then the required qualifier information. That's that fourth category that you may or may not have to cover. So, U.S. Customs and Border Protection Automated Commercial Environment. So Customs and FDA implemented this program, so it requires information. Now, because the ACE process is confusing for most people, I've developed this little map so you understand how this operates. So you have import information, and you've given it to your broker, and you also have that same information. Now let's talk about food products that require prior notice. So you're going to ship a food product to the United States. So all of that information, now how does Customs and FDA link that together so that one and the other know what's going on at the same time? They do that through the Harmonized Tariff Schedule. So the other thing too is if you get into problems, there's going to be the import detention. That's how everything is held together in terms of the Customs database and the FDA database. Everything falls underneath that. Then let's get to the export product. We're going to go through this quickly. I just want to make sure you're aware of the exporting program. Then finally, you have what's called the import for export. You're bringing something into the country to further process it and then get it back out of the country for whatever global commerce you're interested in. And so you can bring products in for further processing, and then export them under Section 801, those basic 4 criteria. So what's further processing? It's any activity that is covered by a manufacturing regulation. So we've covered a lot of information here. Normally, this is sort of like a syllabus for a two-day seminar, but it acquaints you with all the different aspects of import operations and then export operations. What I have here, and I'm not going to go through them now, are a list of questions that sort of cover the information we've just gone over, and so it will reinforce some of the concepts that we have. I'd just like to thank everybody for participating in this webinar, and hopefully it was informative for you and took some of the mystery out of FDA's import process.
Thank you, Gasper, for the great presentations. So that does conclude the session for today. Thank you everyone for participating. You may all disconnect now. Have a great day ahead. Bye-bye.